Emma, Tripp, thank you both for joining me on New Mexico in Focus today. So we're going to talk all about today a concept called restorative justice and what that means in the classroom in New Mexico. But I like to begin with a little bit of history, right? Emma, can you describe what school discipline has meant in our schools historically in New Mexico and what it was supposed to accomplish? What has discipline looked like in the past?
Absolutely. So it's not unique to New Mexico, but nationwide, we really have had a zero tolerance approach to discipline, meaning for even minor infractions, students are sent out of the classroom, sent out of the school, sent out of the district. And so it's really exclusionary based consequences. And most of the philosophy comes from a book that was written in the 1970s called Assertive Discipline. And so it's really about that top-down, the teacher is always right, and it doesn't matter how you feel as a student, even if you feel disrespected, you are to fall in line. And what we've seen is zero tolerance, while maybe well-intended, had a lot of negative unintended consequences, really targeting negatively, disproportionately our marginalized students the most.
Have those approaches been effective? Have there been any sort of positives from your perspective about that old model of sort of suspension, expulsion, that kind of discipline?
Sure. I mean, I think in the severe cases when somebody is at risk of harming themselves or others, then there does need to be kind of a physical separation. But really, those are for really extreme cases. And so what we see now, even the minor cases, the non-extreme cases, tend to be, there's kind of like a broad stroke of zero tolerance.
Sort of the old, if you are a hammer, every problem looks like a nail type of thing.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, and nationally and state, we have our Guns Free Act, which does require a student to be removed from school for no less than a year. And so sometimes cases like that, then the assertive discipline model, the kind of traditional punitive exclusionary discipline models tend to have their place.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of those consequences that we've seen from the old model. So Tripp, New Mexico in Depth published a story back in December by journalist Bryant Furlow, in which you all took a pretty deep look at discipline in one district, in Gallup-McKinley. That is the school district nationally that has the highest enrollment of Native students. What did Bryant find?
So, this was it's a month-long investigation that we did with our partner ProPublica, a nonprofit out of New York City. And what we did, first off, we did not identify Gallup-McKinley at the start. We looked at PED data and discipline data, and the data took us to, we learned that Indigenous students are more harshly disciplined at much greater rates than any other group in New Mexico. And then we began to look to see why that was, and it led us to Gallup-McKinley, which is a very large district. It's twice the size of Delaware. It's very rural, has frontier, and a very high Navajo population, as I recall. And basically, they were driving the harsh discipline of Indigenous students. What we did was we looked at the data, we analyzed the data, we went double-checked the data, triple-checked the data, tried to talk to the school system, and then we published our story. And what we found was a lot of what Emma was talking about, which was, in one case, there was a 13-year-old student, Matthew.
Identified as Matthew.
We didn't identify him as his last name, but Matthew, who, was written up on several, I think it was probably disorderly conduct charges, which gluing a chair, knocking on a principal's window and running away. And what we found was, from national experts, is, disorderly conduct is this catch-all. And that's where you see the racial disparities.
Sort of intentionally vague, right?
Yeah, intentionally vague. This is where you get the zero tolerance, and this is where you see the racial disparities of more Indigenous students, greater rates of harsh discipline than maybe white students. I think Hispanic students, they're so small in Gallup-McKinley. There were similar rates, but statistically it was hard to, it's when you have a very small group, it's, I don't want to say statistically insignificant, but it was really, they have a very large indigenous population.
So what happened to Matthew? Can you talk about what some of the consequences were for that particular student as a result of these harsh discipline policies?
Yeah, it was a progressive kind of thing. The first time, maybe suspended for a day. Second day, maybe suspended for a week. By the, maybe several disorderly conduct, write-ups later, it was an expulsion. Mm-hmm. And that was for the rest of the year. And, Matthew, we talked to his grandmother as well. Matthew had been diagnosed with, attention deficit disorder. His grandmother was undergoing cancer treatments. There was a lot of stuff going on in his life that I think, as a parent of a child, and I know teachers can talk to this, but I think when a lot of stuff is going on at home, it's difficult in the classroom. So he was expelled. And we talked to Matthew and his grandmother over several months and got this story. And he was the way, he was the personal story that wrapped around this data that we saw in Gallup-McKinley.
So let's pivot. Let's start to talk about something that's maybe a bit more hopeful with just a little bit more context in advance, right? It is almost always true that a bold idea or concept like restorative justice tends to follow something that's not working in a larger system, a failure somehow. So Emma, what is restorative justice, like philosophically in the school's context, and how is it different from what we've just been sitting here talking about?
Sure, thanks. That's a great question. And I think it is really important to back up and kind of look at what it is and what it isn't. Like you said, bold ideas come with a lot of baggage, and that includes, criticisms and critiques, which is fine. But really, restorative justice in the context of education is a philosophical shift away from that zero tolerance, exclusionary, traditional punitive model, and a shift, when possible, towards accountability-based consequences. And so some of the criticism that I hear is, oh, these kids are just left, with a slap on the wrist or a hug and a lollipop and then handed back to class. And that's absolutely not true. So really restorative justice and restorative practices in education, when possible, seeks to ask 4 questions. What was the harm? Who caused the harm? Who was harmed? And how do we make it right? And so, like we spoke of a minute ago with Guns Free Act and things like that, we can't always come and circle up and ask those 4 questions, but a lot of the times we can. And so really what it does is it centers the people who were involved in the harm, and it honors their humanity and really centers relationships first, saying instead of a rule was broken, some relationship was harmed. So even in like classroom behavior management, if we've got a kiddo who's constantly on his phone or her phone and has been asked multiple times not to and is breaking kind of the classroom agreement of no phones, the harm that's being caused there is this teacher's trying to teach, right? And other students in the class are trying to learn. And so that can be a good opportunity to say, what was the harm? Who was harmed? Who did the harm, and how do we make it right?
So what does that look like mechanically? If I were to come and visit a school where this is happening, what would I see?
So it depends on when you visit the school in the timeline of implementation. So I really want to make it clear to folks that this is not an event. It is a process as far as implementing restorative and making that shift from our exclusionary to our restorative. And so it takes about 3 to 5 years to make that shift. So if you entered into a school that is maybe in their first year of implementing, you'll see a lot of community building talking circles, checking in the morning, even asking like on a scale of fist to 5, fist meaning you're a 0 and not feeling very good, 5 being like best day ever, let's just do a quick check-in. And some kiddos don't feel like sharing why. So it's okay to say like, just show me a number. Because if you've got a kiddo who's like, I'm 5, I'm 5, I'm 5, and then they're coming to school and they're like, I'm a 0, I'm a 1. It's not groundbreaking information necessarily, but it's a good cue to know something's going on there. Something might be going on at home. Our kids are the canaries in a coal mine, right? So when they start exhibiting behaviors that are perceived as negative, it might be something that's happening at home. It might be the culture and climate and community that they're in their learning environment.
So Bryant did a follow-up story for New Mexico in Depth on this restorative justice approach and a pilot program that I know you're involved with the public education department. What is that program and how were the schools chosen?
Perfect. that I can speak to quite easily. So the pilot program is called the Prevention, Response, and Resiliency Program. And we were able to bring 12 schools into our first year cohort. They are cohort number 1. They're getting ready to move into their second year as the school year kicks off. And they were chosen based on a competitive application process where a review committee reviewed their applications. We had a scoring rubric on who scored the highest around like their readiness, their level of buy-in, not only personally to implementing, but also kind of the level of buy-in maybe among staff and admin. And so we got 36 applications in our first year, which I thought was pretty good. And we were able to take 12 due to funding and budgetary and personal capacity limitations. But I am happy to say that we not only got renewed funding for this school year we're about to go into, but increased funding. So I'm able to still continue to support my original 12 schools that make up cohort 1. We're about ready to open the application window again for a new cohort 2 to come in. It'll be 12 more schools and same process, competitive application process, graded with a rubric. And I'm really happy to say that out of the 60 people that are cohort 1, we've got 6 or 7 students, which is really important to me. You know, our education system is supposed to be for our students, but yet they're conspicuously missing from the design.
Trip, I want to go back to you briefly. When Bryant pitched this, the follow-up story about the restorative justice work, what, from your perspective as an editor and publisher, made that a New Mexico in Depth story? Why did you want to publish that story? What was important about it to you?
You know, I'm going to handle the Bryant part of the question because he was doing the reporting, and what he was being told at Gallup-McKinley is that the high expulsion rates, the high discipline rates were due to high poverty, hunger, all this kind of stuff. So they began looking around and they found districts where you had the same demographic population, high poverty, a lot of hunger, and there wasn't this expulsion, harsh discipline. And that led him down like, why is that? Basically he found that restorative justice in Cuba independent schools, Cuba and Gallup-McKinley were identified in a report like a dozen years ago by the Center on Law and Poverty as having really a big problem. And today Gallup-McKinley still has a high expulsion rate. Cuba, not so much, because they're actually doing some of this talking circles in the restorative justice. Part of the reason that it interests me as someone who's been around, you know, these kinds of subjects for a long time. I mean, I ran into restorative justice first in the criminal justice world. I saw the punitive measures that you could see. I was in California when 3 strikes, you're out, started. But mainly it was this kind of moral question, which is like, restorative justice seems to be more communal than individualistic. That's how I would put it. That's lay speak,
I agree with
yeah.
I agree with
So
that.
more communal, and it's about this sociological phrase that I like, this universal obligation. What do we owe people in our community? And it's about relationships. And I think sometimes these are really important questions that journalists, educators, philosophers, policymakers should be asking right now. And I think that's really at the heart. I could talk all day, as you know, about this kind of stuff, but I'll stop there.
The idea of sorting harm too really, really sits with me. Sorting and trying to make something right that was wrong. So yeah, we could sit here and talk all day about
and
it.
we have sometimes.
But let's let's return to some of the criticism that you mentioned earlier of this approach, right? And I'm going to read a quote from Bryant's story from Rod Montoya, who's a Republican state rep from Farmington. This is what he said for that story. He said, quote, "Restorative justice means no consequences. Teachers are not psychologists," unquote. Is he right?
Teachers are not psychologists, but luckily we're not asking them to be. And I would say he's wrong in the no consequences. I have done over 300 talking circles, some that were just community building and some that were actually what we call tier 3, like a harm was caused and we need to figure out how to make it right. And I have never seen more accountability in any human than when somebody understands that they harmed somebody else, that maybe they didn't really realize the ripple effect of their action. You know, they might think, oh yeah, well, you know, I'm suspended from school, so they think that was the ripple effect. It started and stopped with me. No, well, you know, mom had to take time off of work to come down here and even have this conversation with me and you kiddo right now. And so really trying to understand the ripple effects of one's actions. And what I love about it is we're teaching empathy, we're teaching perspective taking, we're teaching self-management. We're trying to build better citizens for our future, right? I mean, if that's not what education is for, then I don't know what it's for.
You use the word accountability instead of the word consequence, which I find incredibly interesting. And I want to ask one more question about this approach. As schools adopt this and your pilot program expands and maybe PED takes on a little bit more of this, should we expect this as a total replacement for the system that existed before? Does this process, this philosophy, apply to every time a kid misbehaves in school?
No, it doesn't. There are some of those cases, like I spoke about at the beginning of the show, around the Guns Free Act, and really each district gets to make their own decisions on how much or how little they want to adopt this. It's not a state statute, it's not a national mandate. And really what me and my program and my colleagues in the cohort are doing are illustrating that it's effective. We're always collecting data. And so we also know that it takes 3 to 5 years to see that data even shift. So my scope of work is simple but not easy. It's to reduce suspensions and expulsions and increase academic achievement and attendance by way of restorative justice practices and other trauma-informed and trauma-responsive practices. And so I don't think it's ever a good idea to start something new by completely throwing away what's been around, right? So I think it is a shift, slowly.
So you answered half of my last question, which is when should we start to expect to see whether this is having an effect? I want to ask the other half of the question though. How will we know if this is working?
Sure. That's a great question. And I really hope to be able to illustrate the effectiveness through data that we're collecting so that hopefully we can show comparison data to the schools that are doing restorative to the schools in the state that are not. That's one way. We can look at our suspensions and expulsion rates. We can look at our academic achievement and attendance rates. We can look at graduation rates. And those are easily quantifiable. But some of the more important data that's harder to quantify is there a sense of belonging in my classroom, in my school, in my district, on my campus? Do you feel safe, supported, seen, heard, valued, validated as a student and as a staff? Because our safe, supportive, and healthy learning environments are also safe, supportive, and a healthy workplace.
Emma, Tripp, thank you both a ton for coming down to talk to me today.
Thank you.